This is Mitch, and welcome to the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. Gary Boomershine, my friend and longtime mastermind. We met a long time ago in CG, and it was a great time in my life. I learned an awful lot, met some of the people I still talk to and plan with and strategize with to this day. Case in point, how long ago was that we were in that? That must have been 5 years ago we were in that.
I think so.
Yeah, so masterminds are a great way to make lifetime friendships. I mean, we don't see each other every day or anything, but it's like we pick up right where we left off when we meet, and we know each other pretty well. Those masterminds can get pretty intense, and you get to know people pretty dang good, and a lot of good guys in those rooms. Right now, Gary, excuse me 1 second. I got to pay the bills here, but I'd like you to go to taxfreefuture.com, folks, because that's who sponsors this episode. If you do not have a tax-deferred or tax-free environment in which to grow your retirement or your finances, then you're missing out on a huge portion. Go to taxfreefuture.com and learn how to grow your investments tax-free or tax-deferred. You won't believe what your financial advisors are not telling you. Believe me, they're not telling you because they don't get paid to tell you, and that's where they're making all their money. All right, back with Gary Boomershine. How you doing, sir?
Mitch, it is awesome, my friend. Thank you for inviting me. I know we've been talking about doing this together. I cannot tell you how many people ask me about creative real estate and who is really the true trainer out there. And I cannot tell you how many times I mention your name. You know, in real estate, right? You think of like, gosh, this market's constantly turning. There's 8 doors. 2 of them lead to life-changing opportunities, right? And 6 of them could be trap doors, rabbit holes. And so what is the value of being able to find those 2 doors? You were talking about masterminds, and I think I'm in 8 masterminds right now, Mitch. I am such a believer. In fact, what we're going to talk about today, a lot of the ideas came up from CG.
I'm going to say, you know, we're sitting here before the show talking about what we're going to talk about and what it's about. But you came up with this idea in the mastermind, and a lot of the people that got involved at the time were in that mastermind because it was a great idea. So we're going to talk about, I don't know, joining forces with a pro that's going to take some of the workload off of you in a lot of different areas. So this is, I think, it's a pretty unique idea. I haven't seen it anyplace else. It's like a collective of investors saying, why are we all doing this? Why are we all doing the same thing? Why don't we just put one team together and share it? Is that right?
That's exactly right. Specifically, this market is about, for real estate, especially if we're wholesaling or finding creative deals, this is an off-market market, meaning you've got to go direct to the seller. Right, you're not finding deals on the MLS like we were long ago. There are deals, right, and depending upon the strategy, but there's a massive amount of money to be made going direct to the seller. Well, you know what? There's a lot of moving parts. Direct mail, doing Facebook and pay-per-click, doing bandit signs, doing outbound cold calling. And so when we were at CG in the Collective Genius Mastermind, all of us, there were like 110, 100 people, 110 people, all 7-figure investors, and they're all talking about, here's the magic postcard, here's the magic list. You know, Podio came from Joe McCall. Yeah. and Sean Terry was like, hey, here's what you do. And I said, guys, the thing is, all of us have to go do this. Our business is being in front of sellers, making offers and raising money, right? And building a better team and then going into the next market. That's what we got into this business for, specifically around passive income, right? Wealth building and freedom of time, and then everybody got stuck in the muck. So I said, why don't we build one team? And my background, is kind of unique. I can share. I've been doing real estate full time since 2004, and come from a technology background as well. And I actually built it. And here, a couple years later, we've done over 27 million pieces of direct mail.
Really? Just 27 million?
We've been able to track the response rate. We know what works better than anybody in the country, including the real estate agent niche. We have done over 314,000 outbound calls to sellers on behalf of our members, because we've got a phone team, a trained Sales Ninja phone team that's scripted, really, really good. And we do all this for about the cost of one resource. So for like less than 10 bucks an hour, you can outsource to a team that's experts at, managing marketing, getting the phone to ring, doing outbound text messages and ringless voicemail, and then a phone team that's actually calling, screening, qualifying, and scheduling appointments. And so that's it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of work. There's a lot of moving parts, but I'm pretty passionate about that.
How do you price this? I mean, and I will preface this by, we're at the end of March 2019, and they've got the right to change their price or adjust their price or whatever, because some of these things will be archived for months, if not years. So we're talking about price today, but how do you price this?
Yeah. So, I'm going to give a little backstory around that, because it was Sean Terry that actually gave me the idea at CG. Originally, I didn't know how to price it, Mitch, right? Like so many of us, it's like, hey, I've got this thing. And so, hey, if you cover the cost of the marketing, we'll just take a percentage of the profits. That was the original idea, and what we were doing for like the first 60 people. And it was great. We were getting nice checks on the profits, but it was it was like very hard to track. So Sean Terry came up, and I was asking him at CG, and he goes, you know what, if you could do all of this, if you could do everything, all the marketing, if you could guarantee the lowest cost mail prices, right, because of the volume, if you could put in the phone team so that nobody had to hire and train and, more importantly, manage, and you could do it all for the cost of one VA, one virtual assistant, for like less than 10 bucks an hour, you'd have the right people come join you. And so I had a number of people that help, and that's how we do it. So for the cost of about $10 an hour, assuming that you're going to hire somebody full time, you can actually get the equivalent of a 40-person trained expert marketing and sales team doing the work, right, to free you up so you can truly make the money, do the money-making activities.
Yeah, so you're doing these mailings and everything. Where do you get the list from? Who are you mailing? That's a really important.
Yeah, that's a great question. So this came from Chris Chico. Chris Chico came to me in 2013, and he found a secret list that we're still using today, by the way. It's called our Invisible list. So we have two proprietary mailing lists. It's called Invisible because, and a couple of our members said, this is invisible to our competition. So because of our massive volume, I mean, we're buying over almost 2 million property records a month. So the Invisible list, there's 120 million houses on public record. What we have found is there are about 18 million of those properties. So about 10% that are inherited type of properties, mostly free and clear, mostly older sellers. Properties probably need a ton of work. And so that's been incredibly responsive. It's most people cannot get this list. We actually have to go directly to a data center. We have to do what kind of Richter does on his list on a scoring algorithm. For instance, last sale date is a big deal. Like the properties, most people that are going out to list source, they're putting in the last sale date. They'll go get an absentee list and they'll say, oh, any properties before, say, 2008. Well, most of these gems don't have a sale date. And so we'll score that higher. And then we're getting a bunch of other things. But the inherited property has been a really big list. We also have another one called Shipwrecked, and that's code violations, recently deceased. That's amazing, by the way, the recently deceased. It's kind of a pre-probate, a probate lead. So we do this on behalf of our members, and then they may also have their own mailing list. Maybe they're using Richter. A lot of people are actually using Richter's list. We've got some real high volume people that are doing like $20,000, $30,000 a month of marketing, sending out 40, 50, 60,000 postcards and letters. And so they may have Richter's list, and they'll give that to us, and then we manage it. We do the cleanup. We get rid of all the duplicates. So all of the minutia that real estate investors should not be doing, we have a team that does that pretty much in their sleep.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I learned a new list that I didn't hear before that you might be interested in. You may already know about it. You probably do, but 83% of the people that file for a loan modification end up losing their house in the next 18 months. So that's an interesting statistic, huh? And you don't think about some of those things, loan modifications. I don't know if they're as prevalent as they used to be, because I think everybody figured out that you'd go to get a loan modification and no one wanted it to work.
Yeah.
The person who needed the loan, no one wanted it to work.
Yeah, it's interesting. The credit bureau data is one of the sources we use for scoring because there's a couple of economic indicators that are really interesting. As you actually see people that have houses that have equity where their score has dropped substantially. That's another indication. Trying to go after loan mods is a little tough in terms of how you find the list. It's all about who has the data and can you get that data pretty cheap, right? So, at the end of the day, though, what we're finding is that, the most important, it's the cost per deal, right? What is the cost per deal and what is your profit per deal? And a lot of people are like trying to find the little fairy dust list. It's like, it really doesn't totally exist. It's like you gotta, if you're in a market, let's say you're in, let's say you're in San Antonio, and you're able to pick up a property for $2,100 in marketing, right? That's probably 6,000 postcards, and you're able to do that without even thinking about it. Drives enough leads so you're in front of, say, 15 sellers, right? Maybe you have 45 leads that come in. You end up with about 15 that are net, where sellers say, yes, it's right, I'm happy, I want to sell, and then you end up getting one or two of those deals right out the gate. It's kind of a no-brainer, right?
Yeah,
Especially if,
who wouldn't do that?
yeah.
Yeah. So the issue is, I mean, and it's funny you said 2,100, because when I'm borrowing my private money, I borrow an extra $2,000 to reimburse me for my cost of advertising, because I figured out it averages around $2,000 per house to find the person who's that motivated,
Yeah.
And so, interesting enough, you had the same number, because I was going to ask you, but I see people now trying to do SEO and all this stuff, and they're spending $4,000 and $5,000 conversion, and it's too much. It's too high. Actually, we went to, we've tried a lot of stuff just like everybody, and we went out to go get our website, cashforhouses.net, SEO'd up into the first page, right? So we did, and we were number 3. It's a nice position, it's right in the middle of the page. It's really good. And the whole thing sucked. It cost about $35,000 to get there over a period of time, which
Right.
also sucked. And what happened was, apparently people who go to the internet to sell their house, they call everybody on the first 2 pages, because like, I'm going into the house, there's 4 people coming out. I'm coming out of the house, there's 3 people coming in. It's like, I paid $35 to get in a war with these freaking people that are paying way too much. And ultimately the house would sell for, like, my God, who is this investor? Because they're going to be losing their ass here, and they're going to be out of business in no time. I don't know who they are, but
Mitch,
I suppose they're from California, Gary.
No, I know. You've been around a long time. The real estate market, these are cycles, right? Typically 7 to 8 year cycle. We're kind of at that end of the euphoric phase of the cycle, right? And what worked 2 or 3 years ago doesn't necessarily work today. That was one of the reasons I'm like, gosh, guys, if we could actually have that one team and we could be also communicating, we would be able to shift with the market. Like, one of the things we're doing, we have a pretty tight community where people are sharing, because none of us are competitive. It's a semi-exclusive offering, where once we have people and a market becomes locked up, we don't put anybody else into that market. And so people are sharing, and one of the things we're finding is people are realizing they need to also adjust their sales tactics, right? Just going in and making a single offer isn't as effective as now being able to make the multiple offers. I know you've been teaching that forever, but just just little things. We're finding what, you know, the pay-per-click, as you mentioned, in SEO, we're finding the cost per deal is a lot higher because it's so competitive. Everybody's now doing it. Open Door and a lot of these like startup companies, just like 2007, by the way, we saw them come and go, right?
Yeah, but you know, we actually thought about changing our name because the dynamic has changed. You can't be, I'm going to, well, one of the things is most people's promise is just wrong from the beginning. It's just a deceptive thing from the beginning. You know, we offer the most for your house. Bullshit. You know, that's not what you're going there to do. Cashforhouses.net, and a lot of that stuff, it's kind of getting passe because of places like Nest and what did you say?
Open Door.
Open Door. You know, we were going to redo our whole persona and say, look, let us see if there's a solution for you to keep your house. Let us figure out how to help you. We'll put, if you need a cash offer on your house, we'll get you one, but let's see how you keep your house first. You know,
Yeah.
Let's go in with that attitude. Let's have everything flow that way and quit trying to buy houses saying we're going to pay you top money for your house, which is it's an oxymoron in this business. So, what did you think about that? Because it has changed. It's not about, we got to do something that makes people feel like it's a service to them more than it is a quick way to dump a house, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we are constantly split testing new stuff. In fact, when we onboard a new member, we usually are coming in and saying, hey, let's split test 3 or 4 different campaigns, if not more, right out the gate. And then we're going to get back on a call, an account review in 30 to 45 days, and we're going to look together. We're going to provide this back to you of exactly, hey, here's what worked, here's what converted. You know, you spent this amount, what's working better? And I'll give you a couple of examples. We track all the response rates. So 27 million pieces of direct mail. We've tracked every single call. So I know, you know, how many leads does it take to get San Antonio properties? How many in Dallas, right? Dallas, I know that the cost per deal is going to be closer to about $3,800 right now, right? Why do I know that? Because I've got people doing it that are really good, and that's about the cost. You know, enough calls to generate enough good seller leads to be able to make enough offers to close a deal. It's purely a numbers game. And the most important is doing it, right? And so I'll give you a perfect example. A lot of people have been sending out, I think Joe Taylor was the one that came up. You know, there's a postcard, they call it the pink doodle postcard. You ever heard of that?
No.
It looks like some doodle stuff on it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and then there's also the Google Street View postcard. A lot of people are calling it the Smart View. I can tell you, because we've done it, I mean, we've probably done 400,000 or 500,000 of those in almost every market. And Brad Chandler from Express Home Buyers came up with what we call the 1031, and it outproduces both of those 4 to 1. It's a little ugly postcard. I think actually Michael Jake out of Colorado may have been the original inventor from Roop back in 2004. And so what is the value? The value of us being able to get the data and be able to react to it as a group, because the market's turning, right? And it's like, hey, when there's a point in time where things no longer work and you need to shift our strategy. And so that's,
what does a 1031 postcard look like?
you want to see it? You guys, here, I'll pop it up. Give me a second here. If you're
at one time you were using one that looked like it was a late notice or a past due notice or something.
Oh yeah, we still, by the way, that still is the biggest moneymaker, but it gets some angry calls, and you've got to have our phone team. So you really have to have a, you really need to have a phone team that's working those leads. So if you're doing it's called the third notice, blind copy. I mean, it'll get 4 or 5 times the number of calls. But most of the good calls are going to be, most of the money is coming off of hangups. So people that say they're not interested in selling, or they hung up, they listen to the message, and then we call them back and we're converting. Okay, real quickly. So this one here, let me put this, can you see this, Mitch?
Yes, I can.
And okay, so be a black screen for just a second as it comes up. Okay, here we go. All right, so the one on the right, this is, most people refer to this as the pink doodle postcard. So my name, and it looks like it's got some funky doodle stuff. And then you've got what we call the 1031 exchange. So little, and by the way, white paper on this one, usually yellow paper will outperform white, but white actually will outperform and get a better result. So it's an urgent, you know, hey, I want to buy your house, but I think this is the reason it works so well. It says, my name is whatever our member's name is, Ryan Joseph. I recently sold a house in your area. I'm looking to purchase another one with the proceeds. Because absentee owners or burned out landlords like that wording. They like the no frills. And this one on the left outproduces the one on the right by 4 to 1. Isn't that crazy? 400% increase. And so we love it when people are like, you know, at seminars and things telling people, hey, go use this like secret thing, and it doesn't work because people are chasing the wrong. It's like it's like you know, this will show you how old I am, but the Indiana Jones movie, remember when they had the rod and
Yeah.
it would point down to where the ark was, and they basically said, oh, they're looking in the wrong place. They had almost everything right except one piece, which is really like marketing, right? You could actually have, most people are 3 feet from gold. You know, they got the right list, they're getting the leads, and then they don't have a phone team that's actually calling them back, or they're not text messaging. And so we call it, it's the 6 M's of marketing: market, message, media, multiple, months, and money. And you get any one of those wrong, and the marketing doesn't work. And so so that's what we're constantly perfecting that. Cool.
Say those 6 M's again. That was interesting.
Yeah, market. So the market is the list, right? It's what is the list, the market, and that's probably 40 to 50% of the success is actually going to be on the list. And you've got two, you know, you can actually break those lists into 2 kind of categories: one that's an equity list and one that's a motivated list. Equity and motivated. Then you have the message. That's the words. So like pretty postcards don't work at all. It's all about the copy. This is back from Dan Kennedy, who's probably, you know, the pioneer of all the postcards that are out there, and all the info marketing, right? Why are all the infomercials on TV have the same exact formula? There's a reason, because it works. So market, message, media, right? How do you get that message out to that market? And so that could be a postcard, it could be a letter, it could be a bandit sign, it could be an outbound phone call. What is it, right? You actually do outbound calling, and if you've got 2 people, one with one script and one with the other, right, that's the message. One will work and convert and one won't. So those 3 have to. So market, message, media, multiple. So how many times do you actually have to, what is the formula? How many times do you actually hit that list before you need to refresh the list? And it's typically 5 to 8 touch points, right? Over how many months? Months means, okay, like you could get list fatigue. If you're mailing too often to a list, you're going to burn out the list. So an equity list, like even the Richter list or our Invisible, we recommend only mailing to the same names and addresses every 60 days. If you do it every 30 days, you're going to get list fatigue, right? And
Wow.
by the way, I didn't invent any of this stuff. This is the power of getting hundreds of us around the country, you know, good people that are smart, they're true real estate, you know, professionals building a real business, and then we're able to share what's working and not.
Okay, so let's say Mitch Stephen might apply to be part of your team, because you don't just take anybody, right?
Correct.
And then what kind of budget do I need to work a town? You know, I got 1,700,000 people here. What 2 million, say. What kind of budget do you suggest for me?
Yeah.
So I'm not broke either. You know what I mean? So,
you know, it really comes down to the cost per deal, and we're really good at helping our members figure that out. What is the cost? We'll actually, we build a plan, by the way. We build a marketing plan, a robust plan that we put in front of you that says, this is exactly what we're going to recommend. This is exactly how many calls we think we're going to get. How many of those calls are going to turn into appointments, into contracts, and into profit, what your ROI, return on investment, is going to look like. So it's really the cost per deal. So if you're in San Antonio, as an example, where you're at, we would come in and say, hey, we would recommend to start about a $2,000 a month budget. And as soon as we start seeing results, we're going to recommend, and you're making money and you're ready, we'll scale that up. So like we've got a guy, Javier, he's in North Carolina. We actually told him, start with $1,500 a month. And he actually said, you know what, I want to grow faster. So he started with a $3,000 budget. It was just he and his wife. A few months before, he told me he had 32 cents in his bank account, by the way. I told you this story a little while ago.
Is he one of my students?
I'm certain he is. I've sent him over.
I have here in South Carolina.
Yeah, he's awesome. But anyway, he is now doing $30,000 a month in marketing in 5 markets. He's got a big team. He's making a lot of money. He's a 7-figure guy. And so as soon as you get it working and you're making money, you scale it up. That's the goal. So typically we'll tell people, hey, good budget is about $1,500 to maybe $3,000. If you're in California, if you're in Dallas, it's going to be a little higher. If you're in Denver, it's going to be higher. Arizona, it's going to be higher. So some of the markets, the budget, the cost per deal is going to be higher. And people can pause it, start, stop. We're really a high service. The way we've set this up, Mitch, is we're really an extension. We're not a vendor. So we're an extension of your marketing and sales team, except we're going to be better at it, and we're not going to steal your pencils and read your copy.
Because you're focused on it.
Right.
So I get it 100%. You just took a handful of people across the country that have the same needs. You said, let's quit duplicating our efforts. Let's just all go one place. Get the benefit of volume, get the benefit of volume of data, get the benefit of the experience of all the other guys in the country, putting into one collective mastermind, basically on how to generate motivated sellers, or you know what I mean? So it makes perfect sense. That was the revelation that you had in CG when you saw the problem in the whole room with 100 people. We all had the same damn problem.
Yeah. And and one of the things and Kent Clothier told me this. Kent's like, bring in the right people that are good people, that are abundance mentality, right? That are accountable, because
you're still not. You're only accepting one person in one county or in one region, because it wouldn't make any sense to be mailing all to the same people. You got that right, at least. Keep it exclusive in certain in areas.
Correct.
I would probably say counties, but it may be areas, because sometimes there's overlapping counties and stuff.
We actually do it by zip code. We do it by zip code. We actually do it. We don't want people stepping over each other, selling, mailing the same thing to the same seller. But one of the things we've done, Mitch, this is why I love working, with you and others, is this is an invite-only group. So if you have to come from, if you come from Mitch Stephen, and Mitch Stephen, basically, and we know that you came from Mitch, or you came from Sean, or you came from Kent, then we know that you've been well trained, right? And that's a good start. You fill out an application to see if this is a good fit. We jump on a call. It's a real call. The person that you'd be talking to, she's actually bought and sold a couple hundred houses herself. I asked her to do this for me. And so making sure it's a good fit, answering all your questions. And if it is, there's no long-term commitment. We do have you sign up for 90 days. So, if you're not committed to marketing for at least 90 days, it really should be 6 months, right?
Yeah, it should be. But I just want to say I concur. If you're not going to do something for at least 90 days, and you probably really should 6 months, then don't even start. It's kind of like radio advertising. It's a fact. People got to hear this stuff for months until their situation comes up, and then you're top of mind awareness. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it takes a while. And I try to tell anybody about mail marketing. Well, the first month you got 2,000 units out, but on the second month you have 4,000 units out. Well, on the 10th month you have 20,000 units out, it's going to get better because some of the houses, I mean, the oldest house I've bought from a postcard lead was 4 years ago. I mailed the postcard that I bought the house, got the phone call, and purchased the house 4 years later, give or take a month. And it just goes to show that if you quit, you're stopping your odds. You're stopping your odds.
I got a great story on this. There's a gal, I love this gal. You'd see her with the tool belt. I mean, she was a rehabber. She just loved like fixing houses, been around a long time. But she called me about a year ago and said, "Hey, Gary, I'm canceling the service, but I wanted to let you know why." She goes, I love you guys you've made me and you've made my husband a ton of money, but you told me the importance of like, hitting the list. She goes, I've been mailing the same person for 5 years, or not 5 years, for 2 years. You guys have been doing it for me. And finally she called and she said, she goes, Elizabeth, she said, you've worked hard for my business. I've known that when I'm ready to sell my properties, it's going to be you because you worked harder than anybody else. I've been receiving your marketing and your text messages and I want to sell. And so Elizabeth ended up making $800,000 from one deal. The lady actually, I think she had 22 properties. And so they took the 800,000 and her and her husband were going to go travel Europe for a year. And she said, so I wanted to let you know the story so that when you saw my name, isn't that awesome? I'm like, oh my gosh.
Testimonial. Yeah. Hey, Gary, I don't need you anymore because you made me so much money. I don't need you anymore.
I'm like, what? I told her, I'm like, what, Elizabeth, God bless you. As soon as you're ready, I know, you're a tool belt lady. You love houses just like I do.
You're coming back. We know you're coming back. But in the meantime, could you give me a cell phone testimonial? What was that you just said?
Oh, that's cool.
Right, so I want you guys to go to reinvestorsummit.com/vault, VAULT, reinvestorsummit.com/vault. And I don't know, you got something you can give to these folks to get them going. And also, we talked earlier, we haven't decided exactly yet. It's strictly up to Gary, but he's going to give you all some kind of incentive to if you say you came from Mitch or you use this link, reinvestorsummit.com/vault. As you know, I always try to get my friends to pitch in a little bit, and it's not because they just love me. Usually what happens is I'm going to get on his podcast and we're going to do a tit for tat. We're going to, he did it for my folks, so I'm going to do it for his folks. So it's no false graciousness here. We all are working to meet new people, but one of the ways we do that is we do each other favors, and we return the favors when it's our turn. So go to reinvestorsummit.com/vault. You got something you can give away? I mean, you told me something.
I do, and make sure if you come talk to us, just make sure you tell us Mitch Stephen told you to talk to us. We get a lot of people that come from Facebook and other places, and so we want to know that you were referred by Mitch. Second thing is I have a script. We have a seller script. In fact, a lot of guys from CG helped me with this, but I've got the ultimate seller script on the words in the right order to say to a seller if you're calling them, or maybe you're having somebody, maybe it's your own team. This is the same script our trained phone team does for our members. But if you want to do it on your own, I'll give you the actual perfect words of exactly what to say. If you're doing cold call,
go to reinvestorsummit.com/vault, and we're going to have a link over there for the seller script. Just say giveaway free seller script, and you'll be able to get it over there. Also, will be all of Boomershine's contact information, 800 numbers, whatever Gary thinks needs to be put in there so you can get in contact with him and apply. One of the reasons we were talking earlier before the show that Gary wants to know if say my name is because there's different quality of people coming through, and he was telling me, and I was quite proud of it, that a lot of my followers are very educated and very very savvy, which makes me feel good. Hopefully I had a part in that. I would like to think I did, but either way, he's saying, when people come just straight from Facebook or Craigslist, not such a great client, not such a great fit for them when they come from other people, and we're one of them. They seem to be a better fit. So make sure you say that. I really appreciate you giving this away, because I can't tell you how many people have talked to me that are afraid to death to get someone on the phone at first because they don't know what to say. So this is going to be a big help.
Yeah, for sure. And I love you, Mitch. Like I told you earlier, you're the real deal. Two reasons. A, you're the real deal. You're real, right? And you say it the way it is, as opposed to a bunch of smoke and mirrors. And number two, you're from Texas. So amen.
Yeah.
I'm from California, and my wife and I and the kids are probably coming your way, given the craziness over here.
Yeah, well, let me know. I'll tell you where all the cowboys and Indians, how we set up over here. So yeah, please, we need some more good people, gun-toting people down here. We were exchanging gun pictures over here lately. So, but yeah, come on down, please. I know that when you get down here, you will vote like a Texan.
Amen.
All right, my friends. Now that we've alienated half of our audience, anyway, you got to be a fit, right? You have to be a fit. Like, if you don't like that part, I'm not sure that it works. So, you guys, let's get over to reinvestorsummit.com/vault, get your free seller script, and anything else we need to add before we go. I mean, we covered a lot of territory, but we could probably talk for 2 weeks and never stop. So
yeah, I'll put some other stuff out there. There's a ROI calculator, a lead calculator that will actually figure out exactly what your budget. You want to make $1 million, you're in this particular market, fill this particular thing. It'll tell you what your marketing budget, it'll tell you how many leads you need. So I'll make sure that I give that to you on this site as well.
Well, the one I thought was cool that we talked about was, what is your time worth calculator?
Oh, I'll give you that too.
I've never heard of that before in my life. Can we have that too?
I'll give that to you. Yeah. By the way, I'm just going to add, and I know that this goes long, but Justin Colby was the one that said that he did this, and so I just built the tool, and I'll give it to all of your listeners at that website. Every one of us should know the value of our time, right? How much money are you putting into your bank account or want to put into the bank account? Let's say it's $500,000 a year. And let's say you work 40 hours a week, right? Multiply that by 50 hours. We do this all for you. So that means your time is worth $250 an hour. So anything that you're doing in your business that is less value than $250, you need to have somebody better than you do it. And it'll show you exactly what the value is. And right, all of us, our time is worth somewhere between $150 and $1,000 an hour. And if you're working too hard, if you're an overwhelm, this tool is really an eye-opener of like, okay, I need to go and find, this group to do my marketing and my phone work, like, right? Or dispositions, you start growing, somebody that's actually, and property management, all that stuff.
At one point, in 1 year, I was doing this calculation, not quite as savvy as you, but I finally came to the conclusion. And my wife asked me to go mow the yard, and I was getting in that mindset from CG that I couldn't work below my pay grade. I shouldn't do things that are below my pay grade. And so I figured out at the moment that my pay grade was $800 an hour. I was having a really good year. And my wife says, "When are you going to mow the lawn?" And I says, "I don't mow the lawn anymore." She says, "What do you mean you don't mow the lawn anymore?" I said, "Look, I'm worth $800 an hour. You need to find someone else to mow the lawn. You can't afford me." And she thought I was the biggest asshole that ever walked the planet. But I didn't mow the lawn, and I don't mow the lawn to this day. And I don't do a lot of things to this day because it takes that kind of mindset. I mean, she'll ask me, "Can you pick up the dry cleaners on the way from work?" I say, "No, I can't. I won't. I can't. I don't want to get caught up in that crap. Get someone to go do it. I'll be happy to pay them. Happy. Leave me alone, because right up here, when I'm not picking up the dry cleaning or figuring out why the lawnmower is not starting, I'm getting a lot of things done. You may not look like it. You might not think it is. Some people accuse me as like I don't work. I say, you have no idea. I was just working like before you opened your mouth, you interrupted me. I mean, how dare you? I was working before you started talking. Now I got to stop.
Yeah,
You didn't look like you were working. I said, well, what is it? Well, just because I don't have a jackhammer in my hand doesn't mean I'm not working.
Yeah.
So good point, man. Hey, I love talking to you. I'm going to talk to you about San Antonio. You got any room in San Antonio?
I do.
Okay, I'm gonna call you probably later on today or tomorrow or whatever's convenient. But I'm going to talk to you about changing a few things in mine and maybe amping some stuff up. Okay.
Awesome.
All right,
Mitch. Pleasure.
This is Mitch Stephen. I'd like to thank everybody for stopping by to get you some Gary Boomershine and learn about how to take about 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 hats off right here in one move. And that's what it's all about. I also want you to please visit the sponsor of this episode, taxfreefuture.com. If you're not using a tax-deferred or tax-free entity to grow your retirement or your finances, then you're missing out on a huge opportunity. You will not believe what your financial advisors are not telling you. Watch it in the 37 videos. You'll understand what they're not telling you and exactly why they're not telling it to you. Taxfreefuture.com. Please go there. All right, Gary, we're out of here. This is Mitch Stephen with the Real Estate Investors Summit Podcast, bringing you the good stuff. Bye now.
Bye.